Yomi, Tractate Chullin, page 24b. Page 24b. We were in the middle of the Braise. We were in the middle of the Breita. You know what? Just for good measure, just for context, let's start the Breita at the bottom of 24a, two lines on the bottom, a couple lines on the bottom. Tanu Rabbanan. We're starting on 24a, although this is the video for 24b. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, the sages have gelernt on the Braise. Koyin shnishavish seirois, Achiaskin, Kosh lavoide. The sages taught in Breita, a priest from the time he reaches puberty and grows two pubic hairs until he ages, is fit for the temple service, and blemishes disqualify him. Umumin poisten boy. Ben Levi ben Shloish miyad ben Chamishim kosh lavoide. Yishanim poisten boy. Bamed v'ma moim v'al moed. Shiba midba b'shilo beit oilomim ein v'sorel v'kot. Omer Rabbi Yossi ma'ikro. Okay. A Levite from the age of 30 until the age of 50 is fit for the temple service, and the passage of years disqualifies him. In what case is this statement said? It is said with regard to the tent of meeting of the tabernacle in the wilderness, but with regard to Shiloh and in the eternal temple, which means the temple in Jerusalem, Levites are disqualified only due to a change in voice that renders them unable to recite the songs in the temple with their brethren. Rabbi Yossi said, what is the verse from which this is derived? And this brings us to our Amud of the video of 24b on the top with the words Vayhi ke'achad lam chatzitrim u'meshorerim la'ashmiya kol echad. It came to pass when the trumpeters and singers were as one to make one sound to be heard. 2 Chronicles 5:13. This indicates that the Levites must be capable of singing in one voice, and one who is unable to do so is unfit for the service. Ad shiaskin, ad kama, Omer Rabbi Lo, Omer Rabbi Chanina, ad shiartet. The Breita teaches that the priest is eligible for service until he ages. So Gemara asks, until when? What is the definition of aging in this context? Rabbi Elah says, Rabbi Chanina says, until his hands and feet begin to tremble. Tanan osam bal keri shetava v'lo yitil mayim v'cheshiyatil tameh. Rabbi Yossi oimer b'choyle b'zakin tameh v'yeled v'bori toil. We learned in the Mishnah there in Mikvah 8:4 with regard to one experienced on a mission, who then immersed in a ritual bath and did not urinate before immersing. When he urinates, he is ritually impure, because residue of the semen remains in his body and was discharged with the urine, rendering him impure. Rabbi Yossi says, in the case of an old person and an elderly person, he is ritually impure. In the case of a young person and a healthy person, he is ritually pure, as the semen was presumably discharged in its entirety at the outset. Yeled ad kama mobilo Omer Chanina kosh min al raglo yachas techoylitz binaloi binoy binaloi Omer lo malo b'Chanina shehoyu ben 80 shana v'haya oimed al raglo yachas techoylitz binaloi binoy binaloi Omer b'Chanina chamim b'shemin shesochatni im v'yalusi einam doli v'yezeknusi. Until when is one considered a young person? Rabbi Elah says, or Rabbi Chanina says, anyone who is able to stand on one of his legs and remove his shoe or put on his shoe is considered young. They said about Rabbi Chanina that he was 80 years old and would stand on one of his legs and remove his shoe or put on his shoe. Rabbi Chanina says, the hot water and oil that my mother smeared on me in my youth benefited me in my old age. Maybe it's like a voida. Mishevo shtei sayrois. Rabbi Omer. Ani ad shehei ben esrim. The sages taught if one's beard is fully grown, he is fit to be appointed an emissary of the community for various matters, and to descend before the ark as a prayer leader, and to lift his hands for the priestly benediction. From when is a priest fit for temple service? It is from the time he reaches puberty and grows to pubic hairs. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, I say he's not fit for temple service until he reaches 20 years of age. Amar wisdom, my time of the Rebbe. Yisrael Yavuz Levi ben Esrim Shana, Pamano, the Netzach, Al Melechas Beis Hashem, Vidach Netzach Shani. Archizda said, what is the reason for the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? The reason as it is written and appointed Levites from 20 years old, and upward to oversee the work of the house of the Lord. Ezra 3:8. And what does the other Tana hold? He holds that no. He holds that to oversee is different and requires an older priest. The Gemara asks, but what proof can be cited from this verse with regard to the priests? Isn't that verse written with regard to Levites? The Gemara answers, it is understood in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, as Yehoshua ben Levi says in 24 places in the Bible. The priests are actually called Levites. And this is one of those verses. And the priests, the Levites, the sons of Sadok. Ezekiel 44:15. The verse in Ezra is another one of those verses. Tanu Abanon, the sages have gleaned by Isaac. Ish bizarre lois mekanam Rabbi Lozo. Cotton basel avoid of tam. Maybe like kosher avoid mishem sayrois. Avalech bekoyani me benichen oi soil avoid she ben esrim. The sages turn bright up. With regard to the verse, any man of your descendants throughout their generations that has a blemish shall not approach to offer the bread of his God. Leviticus 21:17. From here, Rabbi Elazar says the minor priest is unfit for temple service, even if he is unblemished, as he is not a man. From when is he fit for service? From the time he reaches purity and grows to pubic hairs. He reaches puberty and grows to pubic hairs. But his brethren, the priests, do not allow him to perform the service until he is 20 years of age. If you know puzzle Drabanan Nesle, because the Amri Rabbi Sle Paso Mid Rabanan he Ulichatila Hudila Avadiavad Budato Keshera. There are those who say, this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and he is of the opinion that there is no disqualification for one between puberty and 20 years of age, even by rabbinic law. The other priests simply do not allow priests of that age to perform a temple service ab initio. And there are those who say Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is of the opinion that there is disqualification by rabbinic law in that case. And the statement in the Braita is the opinion of the rabbis, and they hold that it is ab initio that one may not perform the service, but after the fact the service is valid. New Mishnah. Zog the Heilige Mishnah, Toimich Micheres, Tomei Bechor HaKelim, that which the Mishnah says, that which is richly pure in an earthenware vessel is richly impure in all the other types of vessels. That which is richly pure in all the other types of vessels is richly impure in an earthenware vessel. That's the Mishnah, and now for the Gemara. Zog the Heilige Gemara, Tanu Abonon Avik Licheres Tomei V'Gabo Tahoyo. Avir kwa kelim toyo. The Gavon Tominim to Toyo V'Chvi Cheres Tamei V'Chol HaKelim Toyo V'Chol HaKelim Tomei V'Chol V'Chvi Cheres. The sages taught in a bride to explain the mission of a primary source of ritual impurity fell into the airspace of an earthenware vessel. The vessel is ritually impure. And if it fell into sound aside, the vessel is ritually impure. If a primary source of ritual impurity fell into the airspace of all the other types of vessels, the vessels are ritually impure. And if it fell on their outer side, they are ritually impure. It is found that which is ritually pure in an earthenware vessel is ritually impure in all the other vessels. And that which is ritually pure in all the other vessels is ritually impure in an earthenware vessel. The Gemara asked, from where are these matters derived? It is as the sages taught in a right based on the verse. And every earthenware vessel into which of them falls, whether is in it, shall be impure. Whatever is in it shall be impure. And it you shall break. Leviticus 11:33. If an impure item fell in it, and even in a case where the impure item did not come into contact with the vessel becomes impure. Rabbi Yomi son Meltumus Oimer Nemo Toichi Litami Nemo Toichi Litami Ma Toichi Litami Afakbi Shilo Naga Af Toichi Yom Litami Afakbi Shilo Naga. The bride continues, do you say that it is impure even if the impure item did not come in contact with the vessel? Or perhaps it is impure only if it did come in contact with the vessel? Rabbi Yonatan ben Avtolemos. It's Avtolemos or Avtumus. Says Toicho is stated with regard to transmitting impurity to food in its airspace. As it is stated, whatever is in it shall be impure, and Tocho is stated with regard to becoming impure, as it is stated into which any of them falls, just as in the case of Tocho, that is stated with regard to transmitting impurity to food in its airspace. The food is impure, even if the impure item did not come into contact with the vessel. So too in the case of Tocho, that is stated with regard to the vessel becoming impure, the vessel is impure, even if the impure item did not come into contact with it. The Gemara asks, and there, with regard to rendering food impure in its airspace, from where do we derive that the food becomes impure even if it did not come into contact with the impure vessel? Rabbi Yonatan said the Torah testified about an earthenware vessel. To be continued, because this is the end of the Amud. So we'll stop here.